We're going to take a look at backstroke teaching progression. I think it's important with backstroke that you develop drills that are going to teach these athletes stable kicking. Now we have Katie here, who's a fairly good backstroker, kicking vertical kick with her hands on her shoulders, and we're looking at some of the youngsters here. And I think the main thing you want to do here is teach them about a small, narrow kick and about keeping their hips forward. We can see some of these kids have their hips back and really struggling to keep themselves above water, but it's a great strengthening drill for kicking. From there you can move into streamlining. Now that's a lot more challenging, but as you can see, they need to keep that kick nice and narrow and the streamlined position. And it's all about just getting that long line body position that you want when they're laying on the water. So again, it's a different type of drill, but it does strengthen the legs, conditions the legs, and it allows you to get them into the right body position, which we can see here with Katie kicking on her back, arms to the side. And again, trying to maintain the head back and a relaxed shoulders back, hips up, and a narrow, small, narrow kick. This drill here is just, again, I would go from vertical kick to on their back and trying to get them to replicate the narrowness of the kick and the stable body position. You want to try to get them to keep their knees from breaking the surface. So as we can see here, this young lady's knees are just breaking the surface and creating a bit of resistance. So we try to get her to lower her feet down. This young lady here is looking at her feet, so we want to try to get that head just back. Good body position here. Narrow kick, knees aren't breaking the surface too much. Head seems to be relaxed. Another good body position here. Probably looking back a bit too far, looking for the flags, but again, the main thing is to get them to keep their body nice and flat. Always like to get the athletes out of the water when I'm teaching them a new drill and just give them another way to learn. And on dry land, you can talk to them about the head position in relation to the body. So what we've done here is we're taking the kick from the back. Now we're getting them to rotate to the side, but keeping that head in the same position. So it's about rolling the hips and the shoulders up. And I like to talk to them about getting the shoulder out of the water and trying to get the hip to the surface so they have a point of reference. But at the same time, keeping their head back and still, because we would like the body to roll with the head staying still. Again, this is a great way to condition the kick, at the same time teaching a drill, a particular part of backstroke that's relevant, that will be put together and become part of the full stroke later. That is like pausing them in a position there on the side. From there, you progress into rotation, and here what we're talking about is rotating the hip and shoulder together while a continuous narrow kick and the head's nice and stable. As you can see, Katie rotates quite easily, and there's no real pause in the rotation until she gets her shoulder and hip up out of the water. The kick's continuous and the head's stable. And I think this is a very good kicking drill, so conditioning your kick, but again specific to the way that they're going to swim backstroke. They may not rotate this much, but they get the idea of how to keep the kick going and how to have a rotation of the hip and shoulder together in the right time. So we're starting to introduce timing now into the stroke. And from here, you can correct head position, you can correct the timing of the hip and shoulder rotation, and you can correct their kick. So it gives you 3-4 points of reference that you can look at before you progress the athlete along. And I would suggest that you want to make sure that they can do this quite well before you introduce a more advanced drill. And some of the kids there, that young boy's head was a little bit forward, so his hips were down. You can also then increase the speed of this drill, start really getting them to really drive the hip and shoulder through with more speed. And I call this 6-kick roll. From there, the 6-kick roll into the periscope, where you roll and then bring the arm up and back down to the hip, and then that initiates the next side, down, roll. And again, this is about kicking. This is a kicking drill that's introducing the timing of backstroke, and it's really going to condition those legs, and it teaches them the timing of the arm raise in recovery. I like to focus too on getting their relaxed wrists in this position. So you see some of these young guys are reaching and have a real stiff arm. I'd like their arms to be nice and relaxed. They're a broken wrist, as we can see this young girl there. Nice and relaxed, straight arm with a broken wrist. Again, we've got little rotation there, so we would be practicing on the rotation. And the key things you're picking up is the recovery arm, the timing of it going up, and the rotation of the hip and shoulders, the head position. If you're looking to introduce kicking, more kicking into your training, which I think is very important for young swimmers, it should be a kick drill because you're achieving two things at once. So now what we're doing is 6-kick roll with an arm pull at the end of the 6 kicks. Roll up, relax wrist, hand in, pull through and roll. Again, it's 6 kicks, pull through and roll. The finish of the stroke, roll the shoulder up. Pull through and roll. Nice relaxed recovery. And as you can see, you're starting to build the timing of the arm pull through and the hips rotating to pull the arm through. We've got this young boy here, a little bit late on the pull, on the hips rotating. See, he rotates the hips late. You want to try to encourage the hips rotating as the arm starts to pull through. So the hand goes in, the hips rotate, and your arm pulls through. If you have a backstroker who tends to overreach behind their head, come across, have a look at their hips, and you probably will see that their hips are not rotating as the arm pulls through. So we look at Katie here. Her hand goes in, and she rolls the hips through and pulls the arm forward. This drill is just, again, building the stroke, but now looking at the catch and pull through. So we do 2 right, 2 left, and then 2 double arms. And really the double arms is about grabbing the water, anchoring and pulling through, pressing down. So the feel of the pull through. I would recommend that you keep the drills simple and don't progress until you feel that they've got a handle on the drill. We've kind of got these kids to try all of them, but some of them probably needed to stay back doing the kick roll drill just to get the timing of the hips and shoulders, and that's probably good enough for them to do until they're strong enough and conditioned enough before you progress them into more advanced drills. And I think that sometimes we introduce drills for the sake of drills, but there has to be a purpose, and you have to prescribe those drills to help improve the technique. You can see these guys just doing double arm here, double arm pull through, and again, with this pull, you can look at the pull through and how their hands are pulling down to their hips, the depth of their pull through, the anchor entry of the hands in, the anchor on the catch of the stroke, and you can look at ways to correct that. I think it gives you that opportunity. They want to have a wide out sweep initially, deep, and then up through to the hip. Again, body position, head back, hips up, and a narrow continuous kick is very important. You can also do this drill with a pull buoy if you want to just them to feel the pull through. And here, Katie's just demonstrating full backstroke swimming. Really what you're looking for is hand in and the hips rotate and pull the arm through. Shoulders rotate behind the hand in, so you want to roll into the stroke and use the hips to drive through. So we can see this young girl here is reaching and pausing behind her head. If we look at her hips, she's rotating at the end of her stroke, which means that's why she's overreaching. So if you correct the timing of the hips, you'll correct that overreaching. Always a cause to an effect in technique. So find the cause of it and correct that. At the end of each stroke, we'll provide some race footage of various athletes, freestyle, backstroke, breaststroke, and butterfly. It's just an opportunity to have a look at some of the top athletes in competition, as well as others that they're swimming in there. And you can get a look at the technique and the way the stroke looks at that level. And I think it's important that you use that model when you're teaching your athletes and developing their technique, that you're working towards the model of the best